Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 688 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Isaac Mashman. And if you want to get your branding and your message on point, listen to this episode and take some notes. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Today I have Isaac Mashman on with me. It's episode 688. If you guys want to go check out the full show, go to chirohustle.com. Check out the catalog of all the episodes that we have over there. Before we get into Isaac's story and a little bit about how he's in branding, reputation management, podcasting, speaking, media kits, we're going to talk tactical advice today and messaging to chiropractors. So the framework is set for you guys. So pay attention, get your pen and paper out, take some notes, take some digital notes, whatever you guys decide to do, but engage with us and learn some things about this opportunity today to have Isaac on with us. Our big why do we do what we do? Well, first things first is freedom of speech. We know what it's like to be traffic throttled, shadow banned, and censored, and we'd never do that to you. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. If you don't have somebody in your life to give you guidance on that, find a chiropractor in your city, and they'll help you with medical freedom and family health freedom needs. We also believe in philosophy of chiropractic. We believe that there is a sacred trust and we have to guard it well. If you guys want to learn more about the sacred trust, check out our show notes. It's BJ Palmer's last words. I guarantee you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever did before. I guarantee that's going to happen. We also believe in subluxation-based chiropractic. If you know a chiropractor that needs to get more philosophy, please share this show with them. It's going to benefit their lives. And we also believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And that creates educated intelligence. And with that, Isaac Mashman, your episode 688 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. Welcome to the show.
James, thanks for the invitation. You're talking about some words that I have no idea what they mean, but I'm here to jam and excited for the conversation.
Well, that's just it. That's a big reason why we do this show is because you might be the one person to learn about innate intelligence and teach that to someone else. You might be the one to learn about universal intelligence and teach that to somebody else. You might be the one to learn about the sacred trust of chiropractic, or somebody else will follow you and they'll be like, what does that mean? So there might be some curious moments in this show today that other people that follow you or in your world that will learn from us together. So I think it's a real good opportunity for other people.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, first thing first, tell me your story, man. How did you get into this idea of branding and reputation management and things of that in business? Like, where did you come from?
Yeah, I can summarize my entire journey as the pursuit of clarity. Like if I had one sentence, that would be what it is. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, originally home of the wonderful best NFL team in the league, the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2-8 right now. I'm crying inside, but come from a single parent household. I suppose the same sob story a lot of entrepreneurs have, a lot of business people have. And it's not that talking about it so many times makes it lose any meaning, but it's really just something that I embraced and something that made me who I am today. And I know that sounds a little cliche, but growing up, my mom was a brilliant woman. She still is a brilliant woman, but she always worked lower paying jobs that were she was really overqualified for in terms of the intelligence that she had and the work that it was. So we're talking fast food, we're talking grocery store management, that sort of thing. And I was in large part raised by my grandparents. Didn't meet my biological father and have a relationship with him until I was already an adult. He was out of the picture, didn't know that side of the family really well. And my grandparents were a pillar of peace. My grandmother, raised me with the idea of working with your brain so you don't have to work with your back. And it's kind of ironic to say that, considering I'm talking to a chiropractor, but that stuck with me. And I was a stellar student on track to get a full ride scholarship to FSU or UCF, graduated top 10 in my class, 4.44 weighted GPA. So you can imagine the look on my guidance counselor's face when I came into him one day and I was like, man, I'm not going to college. And this was my senior year. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not going. And around that time, I started a clothing line. It was drop shipped. That's how I made my first couple of dollars online. It was through a store called Teespring and called Success Before Rest Apparel. I put some motivational cliches on it. And, prior to that, I had some entrepreneurial influences and endeavors like doing lawn work over the summer to help fund my scouting trips and Boy Scouts. But it wasn't something that I really understood. And I feel like a lot of people, call themselves entrepreneur and they can't even spell the word and they don't know what it means. And it takes time to really develop that understanding and respect for being a business owner versus just being somebody unemployed with a title. And that was huge. And I got my start in network marketing. I joined the industry. My first business trip was having dinner with the vice president of the company in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I took a bootleg bus from Jacksonville to New York, got picked up by my downline that I've never met in person, drove out to Minneapolis with them. And, the vice president heard the story. And whereas a lot of people were focusing on taking photos with the Rolex, I was focused on picking his brain. And he saw that and invited us out to dinner and pissed off some of the upline. But it was a great experience nonetheless. And over the span of a couple of years, this was in 2017, going into 2018, I went from the industry of network marketing, got out of that, went into podcast management, did some work with a mutual friend of ours, traveled to France, stayed in there for a month. And from there, went into the music space. And this is really important to note because in the music space, what I was essentially doing was being the Scooter Braun of the talent that I found. And I had these ambitions of, becoming my own Scooter Braun and going and scaling up not only my own personal brand, but also the personal brand of the artist that I was working with. But there was an issue with that, James. I realized that there are really no ways to make money in the music industry, either unless you go at scale and so you're in front of millions of people, or number two, you are getting the artist locked into really aggressive 360 deals where you're taking a cut of everything they make. And I didn't want to do that. And so around the time the pandemic rolled around, the artist that I was managing, he lost his passion. We had to cancel a concert and I was a little lost. And I knew to myself that I didn't want to do another social media agency. And that's when I stumbled into this idea of personal branding and got acclimated, and familiar with the word. And then from there, launched my public relations firm I was building for a few years, dissolved that this year, and launched Mashman Consulting Group, which is my baby now, what I'm going to be scaling to 9 figures and building a team of 500 consultants by 2035. And it's been a wild ride. It's taken 5 or 6 years to really compound those results, but it's really one of the most powerful industries I believe ever. And it's something that there's a lot of information that isn't true. There's a lot of information that people have misinformation on, I suppose, a very short-sighted thinking. And I'm really excited to kind of set the industry standard and get more people to know about my space and why they should be building out their own personal brands.
Well, I'm going to go back to a couple things and just build some similarities with you.
Sure.
I was also single parent family. So I think that there is a lot of translation when it comes to going and finding your way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that working hard is definitely something that I can tell from your story is you're always trying to find where you fit in and how it can help you get to the next thing. And I think that that's a cool evolution. And entrepreneurship is sometimes, it's very misunderstood. And it takes a lot of integrity to go out there and to build a brand on your own and to build a company. So just want to acknowledge you for that, growing up similar path as I did and sticking to what you believe is important. So really, really awesome to hear your story. Now let's talk the branding space. chiropractic facing tactical advice. Why is it important for chiropractors to develop a personal brand?
Mhm. Well, there's a big difference between building a brand and building a personal brand. Your personal brand is you, it's who you are. And I have the philosophy that you've had your personal brand from the moment you were born. Your parents gave you your name, they nurtured into you your political beliefs and affiliations, or ironically, what you don't agree with as an adult. They determined the God that you pray to, your characteristics in a large part, your environment, your nature. And so you've had your personal brand your entire life. But the issue is, most people don't know how to leverage it. Most people don't understand that they have the greatest asset at their disposal that they can build. I mean, think about the movie stars we follow, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, think about Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, think about Joe Biden or Donald Trump. All these people are examples of very successful personal brands. And if they give their endorsement to something, it means something, right? It has power, it has influence, it has heat behind it. And, speaking directly to the chiropractic industry, there are a lot of, number one, there's a lot of confusion about why it's important. Is it something that's a necessity? Why should people get adjusted? The second thing is there's a lot of competition because there's, I'm thinking about my local city of Little Rock, Arkansas. There are multiple chiropractors. And when my fiance decided that she wanted to go and, get adjusted and get checked out, or myself, we had 5 or 6 different options that we could choose from. And Little Rock is a smaller city compared to Denver, New York, LA, wherever you're from. And so you're thinking about the competitive advantage. And if you can leverage your personal brand as the number one chiropractor in your city, similar to, let's think about a lawyer, right? If you're looking at a local level, there are probably lawyers who plaster their faces on billboards and park benches and bus stops and, run advertisements. And when you think about finding a lawyer for personal injury, there's probably 1 or 2 lawyers that pop up in your head. And so now I want you to think for a second, how can you be the number one person, the number one chiropractor in your local city? And then from there, use that influence and use that awareness from your personal brand to grow your practice's brand, which is your company, right? And so your company is an extension of you, and it's an extension of your personal brand, the same way that the Chiro Hustle podcast is not James Chester, but is an extension of what James Chester has going on. Same with your speaking, same with your book, same with anything. And I think having that awareness is really important. And then obviously we could dive into some of the more tactical steps.
Well, I think you made 2 really cool tracks there. One is you are your personal brand from the day you were born. And then your business branding is what you start. And that's the identity that you have with your practice. So I think it's really important for people to understand that there's 2 parallels. You can have your personal brand, which is who you are as an individual, but you should also have your business brand, which parallels your person brand. And yes. I think that it's really cool for people to understand that, because they are not the same thing. And, Chiro Hustle is not James Chester, but Chiro Hustle has an identity of its own in the marketplace. And I think that the way you said that you wanted to establish brands that had value to them, I want to establish a brand that had a standalone, like when people think about Nike, they think about an image. They think about, a generational brand that has been here for many, 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 many years. And I think about that as when people develop a business brand, what does it mean to the profession that it's a part of? What does Chiro Hustle mean to chiropractic? The same way, what does Nike mean to the NBA? What does Nike mean to the NFL? Well, it's a brand that supports the athletes inside of it,
Exactly.
And when you think about that, people attach themselves to the branding of a movement, it's different than the branding of yourself. And I love the idea that you laid that out, that there's 2 parallels to that. And I think a lot of people are going to get some takeaways from our conversation on the idea of a brand individual and the brand of a business.
Definitely. And if I could interject here, when I was speaking in Denver last month to the pond space water feature industry, it's an industry I never thought I'd ever work with. Similar to, working with a chiropractor, one of the things that they really highlighted was I am not able to be on the job site 24/7. I'm not always going to be the person there. So if I'm sending somebody in my place to go and work on a multiple 6-figure water feature for a client and I'm not there, there has to be a degree of trust between the client and the person who is on the job site. And you're thinking about a scaling chiropractic or a practice, right? I'm just going to say practice so I don't stumble on my words 24/7. My speech impediment from elementary school is coming out trying to say chiropractor 24 times. But if you think about having all of these different doctors and all these different practitioners at your practice, they're going to be clients who want to come back and see that specific doctor, to see that specific person who they're building a relationship with. So even if you are not there, you might be the face, you might be the brand, the personal brand that gets them in the door, but then the relationships with those individual practitioners that they're seeing are going to be the reason they keep coming back. And so I'm thinking about, there's a doctor locally, Dr. Beachy, right? And he's the person who works a lot with my fiance, and that, whenever I go and get adjusted, I'll be wanting to see because I like the guy. And you want to be working with people you like, know, and trust. Similar in the sales cycle, right? You're talking about sales. In order to sell somebody, you have to relate to them. They have to like you. They have to like what you have going on. And there has to be some sort of need or emotional, driving force that makes them make that decision. And so you can also think from a high level standpoint, if you have a practice with 10 different chiropractors, they all have their own personal brands, and the way that they're representing not only themselves, but also the practice that they're working for is going to help establish those relationships with those patients that walk through the door and keep them coming back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a rapport is definitely one of the first steps in building a practice. And people, obviously, they want to have you deliver on your promise.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to come in and know that you're a professional and you have authority and being a great practitioner. So they're going to come in based on your reputation. And that takes us to the next part of our conversation, is reputation management. How would you recommend a chiropractor to position themselves for reputation management? And then we'll segue into reviews, and how does that have an impact on reputation management?
Well, reputation management, what is your reputation? Well, it's what other people are saying about you. And so it's an extension. Again, your reputation is not your personal brand, but it's tied very closely. It has a symbiotic relationship with your personal brand. So the better your reputation, the better your personal brand is going to be in terms of attracting opportunities to you. And you don't want people to have questions or doubt in their mind. So if you have, talking about reviews, let's just jump into this, because this is one of the easiest ways to establish your reputation from a business brand standpoint. If you have 25 negative 1-star reviews, and it's like going to Yelp and seeing the fast food restaurant or seeing the Chinese buffet that has 1 star, it's like, yeah, this probably isn't the gym in the hood that I want to go eat at, right? But if you see a bunch of 5-star reviews, you're going to be like, man, I want to go to this buffet. And so when you're building your own practice, every single time a client is getting a positive result from you and is going home, you should ask them and encourage them to leave you a positive review and say, hey, could you go to Google? Could you go to Yelp? Could you go to Trustpilot or whatever source of review that you're looking for, and just say a couple positive words? Now, I want to go ahead and address this because this is something most people might not know. You cannot do a giveaway. You cannot do an incentive. You cannot give a discount to encourage somebody to do a positive review or to leave you a review. The FTC frowns on that. It's technically illegal. But what you can do is say, hey, I would love for you to leave a review. And then you, I suppose, supplement the gap between, you're not incentivizing them to leave a review, but you are doing a giveaway by showing up, or the local practice, right? Which you made a Facebook post, and it's like best chiropractor or best practice or whatever you made the post about in Little Rock, Arkansas. And then I went to the guy's profile and I was like, damn, he's the owner of the practice that we've went to. That's significant. Okay. But one of the things that they do, it's called Restoration Health, is they don't incentivize you for leaving a review, but they do incentivize you for referrals. And so they would give a free exam and a free x-ray to anybody who you would refer. And then by making that referral, you were entered into a giveaway for whatever it was, like a gift card to one of the steakhouses. So that's a really easy way for you to drive referral-based business, improve your reputation, because now somebody is not just finding you on Google, they're finding you based off of another person that they know, like, and trust, referring them to you. And it's just a positive thing all around. And so looking for ways from a business standpoint to improve the social status of your practice is huge. And then from your personal brand, doing things like going on other people's podcasts or writing a book or writing articles. And I'm sure that there are magazines that are in the space, right? The chiropractic space, that you could contribute to and talk about. So you could go and position yourself not just as a chiropractor who went to school and has all the certifications, which already gives you a huge advantage in terms of credibility automatically, but now you're doing things that are public facing. And so, James, what you're doing is positioning yourself as the #1 chiropractor or a top practitioner in the space. which is going to make you a lot more attractive. So would you rather work with the average guy, the average person who, went to school? Or would you rather work with the number one chiropractor who has contributed to health journals and WebMD and, these magazines, and who's been interviewed on CNN talking about why Americans need to go ahead and, get into the chiropractor? These are things that you could do at a very high level, or even on a small level and on an easy level, to stand out and improve that reputation and drive results.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. Things I like: number 1, page 1 of Google. Number 2, between 50 to 100 reviews.
Yep.
If I see page 1 with high levels of reviews, that builds my third-party validation trust. I believe that people go there, they like it, they're getting good results, and they're willing to speak on behalf of the practitioner. So I think that those are really good things to take away from what Isaac said and what I'm adding into the conversation. And then in chiropractic, Isaac, one of the things that we really rely on is getting people to stay, pay, and refer.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that? Well, you deliver great service. You have great approachable fee schedules, and then you get them to refer by, like you said, creating an environment where people know, like, and trust you, but you can also put gamification into it. And I think when you put that type of a mindset into building a practice, now you're getting people to stay, pay, refer, and now they're going to go speak as third-party validation for the review sites, and people are going to say, wow, I need to go see this person too, based on the level of expertise that they deliver on, but also what people have to say about them. So now we have done a great job as brand positioning and reputation management, and we're going to that review environment. So now we're going down the ladder and in sequence to finding different ways to improve the digital footprint for a practice long-term.
Exactly, which we could talk about social media. We could talk about a website and have an effective about page that has all of the people that they're expecting to see. And to go to the Google reviews one more time, and not just Google reviews, but reviews in general, I'd recommend that you consolidate all of your reviews and testimonials to one platform. And the reason you want to do that is you don't want to split focus and say, hey, go leave a review on Trustpilot, go leave a review on Yelp, go leave a review on Google My Business. So have it 100% directed to Google My Business, because let's face it, Google owns 95% of the market. So it's like, you need to make sure that if people are going to Google and typing in chiropractor near me, you're showing up. Now, you said 50 to 100 reviews. That's a really good foundation. You should aim for 1,000 in time, right? But the more reviews you get, the higher you're going to be ranked in the search outside of sponsored posts. So yes, you could spend money and be, the sponsored choice. I personally, whenever I see sponsored, I skip over it. I don't even pay attention to the sponsored ad. But what I do is I go to the top choice underneath sponsored, and a lot of times they have the most reviews, the most positive interactions, and a very well managed Google My Business account, because you can go into Google My Business, post updates, you could post offers, you could post new features, new store openings, all of that. And so you could interact, and whenever somebody leaves a positive review, have somebody on your social media team or have somebody, the secretary, go in and respond to that review and say, hey, thank you so much for coming to, X, Y, and Z chiropractor. We really appreciate your business. Let us know if we can do anything. And so now you're being engaging, which improves your reputation as a practice. Or what you could do as the founder, if you wanted to make this your kind of, I suppose, leg up on everybody else, you could go in and say, hey, I really appreciate you for stopping by. Even if you didn't work with the person individually, and you put James Chester, founder, right? And that shows that, hey, the person at the highest level is paying attention. That's huge. That's huge. And so the more reviews you have, the higher the algorithm ranks you. And it's the same thing with social media. The more engagement you get on social media, the more likely the algorithm is going to promote you to more audiences.
Well, I was just at an event this past weekend down in Palm Beach, Delray Beach, Florida. And what I learned down there, as I was talking to some of these practitioners, is they all typically do some type of a condition-based ad. So they're running traffic to a condition-based ad, whether it be a decompression ad or a laser ad or a soft wave ad. And what I told these guys is that the more organic content that they create, the more that ad will work better for them when they're running traffic to their business manager. Right. And, I think a lot of times people think that they just sign up for an agency to manage their profile and to drive traffic to their pixel. And the next thing they know, they're going to be seeing 40 new patients a month with a click-through rate of like $13
and they're going to spend 5 to 10K hiring an agency. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, look, if you start just developing creator content, like engagement questions, posting pictures of you and your staff, just actually like feeding the algorithm your like creator content, like the ads are going to be that much more productive because they live off of each other. And then when you go do like community events, people are going to say, wow, I saw you in my local feed as the chiropractor. I saw your ad and I was thinking about calling you anyways, because you do such a great job of marketing and establishing your brand and your reputation and the algorithm. So I find that to be super important for anybody watching this, is not only get a great agency to manage your ads and your traffic for you if you can't do that yourself, but post regularly, like once a day at least, to your business page and your personal page, because you will get priority when it comes to running paid traffic. Just FYI.
Man, I'm feeling giddy because I feel like we could talk about something really impactful here for people. And this is something I wanted to bring up. It's just a matter of bringing it up at the right time. What does a piece of content do? What is the outcome? Why do people engage with content? And there are 4 main reasons. Number 1, to be entertained. They want to feel good. They want to, have some emotional connection built, right? You see this with a lot with comedians, right? Comedians, movie stars, etc. A piece of content can connect or motivate or connect. So it connects you with the person on the other end of the screen, right? Similar to single parent household. Now I know an additional piece of information about you. I'm more likely to connect with you on a personal level. That's big. Then we can think about motivating and inspiring the audience so they feel driven to take action. And the final piece is education, and they're learning something new. Now, when I went and got my own x-ray and checkup, and, one of the things that the doctor was going through is he was educating me on why all of this is important. And he was saying, hey, this is something you need to look out for. Oh, you have this like minor bone spur. We need to address that ahead of time. Okay. And he's teaching me as he's positioning himself, right, as the expert, saying, hey, I know this. You don't know this, right? That is the authority figure. And you as a chiropractor and you as a practitioner have the ability to create content on social media that is not only the stereotypical cracking back, kind of videos that we all see, which those do perform really well, but they don't do anything to position you aside from going viral. But you can educate your audience, not giving legal advice and saying, hey, you need to go ahead and crack your back at home doing this. Next thing you know, they're paralyzed, right? But you need to go ahead and say, hey, this is one of the reasons why you might be sleeping wrong. The kind of pillow you're using, the mattress that you're sleeping on. And you could go in and talk about all these targeted subjects that are pertaining to your expertise that positions you to your audience as the expert. And then if you wanted to, you could run a targeted ad using that organic content to your local market while also reaching the masses to where now you could be the number 1 chiropractor in Denver, Colorado, the number 1 chiropractor in Miami, to where people are flying across the country or even flying across the world to work with you because they saw your video. And it costs you absolutely nothing to do. And you could get your staff engaged. And there are so many different ideas that you could come up with from, I know that in the retirement home, they had like the candy bowl and they would all contribute like wafers or candies or whatever it was to this candy bowl. That is an example of a retirement home leveraging social media to drive awareness and to connect with their audience and to make it where, oh, if I want to put my grandmother or put my mom in a retirement home, let's go with the fun one, right? But you guys can do the same exact thing at a very high level, go viral, connect with an audience. And even if you don't go viral, or even if you create 100 videos, you're still creating exposure, which also translates to Google and SEO, because now you can help pop up to where if somebody was to search up your practice, they see all of this different social media content. Now they can engage and see the staff. They can see how friendly they are. They can see their smiles. They can see this badass with tattoos. And it's helping you position yourself as not only the authority, you yourself creating content, but also your business by giving it a sense of identity. Now your business has a brand that is scaled outside of you.
Well, you touched on something really important there, and that's becoming a subject matter expert. And that is also creating a community and an environment that people want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you position yourself as a subject matter expert, as an authority, and you create an environment in a community that people want to be a part of, that is really the main driving point behind creating content on social media. Is you want people to engage, you want people to get a snapshot of who you are, and you want them to build an idea of what to be expected. Now, I'll tell you quickly, like how you said that chiropractor did a great job of walking you through and building expectations for you. I'll tell you why what I do works really well, and what I recommend chiropractors to follow this type of framework is let them know on visit 1, we're going to do a full exam, consultation, health history. We'll do some neurological evaluations, some muscle testing, and orthopedic exams. We're going to shoot some x-rays. Visit 2, now we're building this brand of expectation like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Visit 2, you're going to come back. We're going to tell you what is on the report of findings. We're going to tell you what we found, how much concern there is. We're going to tell you how we can help you. At that point, you get your first chiropractic adjustment. We'll go over financials with you and show you what we found on the x-rays. At that point, we're going to earn your trust the old-fashioned way by rendering you a great service. If you think we're a great fit, you stick with us. If you come in for these first 2 visits, you realize that's not the right place for you, there's no strings attached for further care. But I guarantee you one thing, you're going to like us. So when people are pre-framed into understanding the sequencing of what to expect, like that is very comforting to people, because now you've rolled out to them what to expect during that engagement process. So I think what you're saying as being the patient, being involved in that sequencing, it's really important for us to establish that type of rapport to where people don't get surprised by what's going to be happening next. And they kind of know like the flow of how to participate on the first 2 visits that they see you. And then they're like, wow, that was amazing. I would love to tell people about you guys, because you guys did a very thorough job of treating me really well. You didn't waste my time, and I didn't waste your time by showing up, and we had a great relationship. So cool. Now on to the next thing. Great. We're going to see you this many times for this long. This is how much it's going to cost. And now you can retain people. And back to that core statement I said, we're going to get you to stay, pay, and refer. And how do you do that? You manage expectations and you walk people through the brand journey, and you get people to understand that this is why you're here and this is what we're going to do for you. Let's get you better.
And building your personal brand or building your reputation is running directly parallel with what you're talking about and managing the expectation of the client experience. I don't care. It's not my job to walk through and tell you this is what you need to do to manage the expectation from a professional standpoint. My idea and my role is to help you manage the expectation from the brand standpoint, and to say, hey, if you're creating all the social media content, if you're putting yourself out there as the founder, if you're, engaging and doing interviews, or going on the local news station or the radio station and doing an interview with people, you're answering questions before somebody ever talks to you, because now they don't need to question, all right, well, who's the founder? How long have they been in business? What do they believe compared to the next guy? Why is this important? You're answering these questions for them, which also optimizes your own sales cycle, because now they can walk through the door and they're already hot, right? They're not a cold prospect being like, I don't know if I want to work with this guy. Now they're warm or hot in some cases and saying, damn, I saw this guy's, content on social media. I don't need to go to the next guy because I have the number one guy. And that gives you a tremendous amount of leverage to where, again, they can stay, pay, and refer. That's why you build your personal brand, so opportunities can come to you, or build your brand.
Well, I know we got about 5 minutes left and I want to cover a couple more topics. Podcasting. Why is podcasting important in the current environment that we're all in?
Joe Rogan, Donald Trump. Question answered. No, it's a form of selling from stage, similar to creating content online, but taking the time to develop a podcast and actually spend the time to do it well and to commit to it for a long term, like you, 7 years, 600 plus episodes. The average show only gets 20 episodes and 20 listeners because they give up. They stop. They're like, oh, my first episode didn't go viral. I guess I'm a failure. And they give up. And that's pathetic. What you need to do is stay consistent with it for a long period of time. And what you're doing is positioning yourself as an expert, number one. And then on top of that, you are selling from stage and you have a tremendous amount of content that you're able to chop up and direct and to use. So what you can do now is, like, this went live before we got into the conversation. I shared it to my feed. Alexander Stevens left a comment. So I'm leveraging my personal brand to give you exposure, and your audience is also now going to be familiar with me. And so you have this great relationship and power dynamic that's going on, and it's mutual edification. And what is edification? It's saying, I like this guy. I trust him enough to bring him on for a conversation. And why did you trust me enough, James? It's because you've engaged and you followed me for years, and we've haven't really had too many one-on-one conversations, but you knew what to expect by bringing me on as a guest. And so podcasting is a way for you to do that at scale.
And I like to bring people on that I appreciate what they create as a brand. So I watch what you do, and sometimes I snipe your little one-liners and I'll repurpose them.
Sometimes.
I'll repurpose some of the content you produce, and I'll say, hey, how is my audience going to react to something similar that Isaac made? Mm. And you can see, like, some of the things I post, like, I'll get like 100 comments to. And it's pretty wild. And I can tell you, just because of following some of the strategies that you've actually laid out there, I've gotten more stages. I've gotten on more podcasts. I've gotten invited to do more cool things. So I recommend everybody following what Isaac does.
And how long did it take you? Those little strategies that I highlighted.
I've only been really doing it for a couple months now. So
it took you 30 seconds to type up a post.
Yep.
That's how simple it needs to be. You don't need to have some super 25-page Russell Brunson ClickFunnels to get results. Your quick call to action can be, hey, I want to be on your podcast. Hey, I want to adjust your back. And you don't do that as all of your calls to action, but you throw that in there once a week, and you're going to get results from it.
So last topic, speaking.
Yeah.
How are you leveraging everything that you're talking about, from branding, reputation management, podcasting, and the frameworks into speaking gigs?
Mm-hmm. Well, number one, by positioning myself as a public figure in the personal branding space, it makes it to where somebody doesn't have to question if I'm an expert. So they can see that automatically. And so actually, by using podcast guesting, I was on a show earlier this year, and within a month, the host made an introduction because somebody who he was connected with in his industry, the water feature space, listened to his episode and our conversation together and said, hey, I want to have Isaac come out potentially and speak at our conference. Well, 6 months later, I was at the Atlantic OWASA Professional Conference in Denver, Colorado, speaking to the water feature space and in front of amazing contractors out there. Leverage podcast edification for visibility that led into an actual engagement and really great relationships. And so public speaking is one of the highest forms of credibility that you can develop, because by you coming out on stage, every single person in the audience isn't, I don't want to use the terminology, beneath you, but they are the ones paying to be there, and you're the ones getting paid to be there. Huge difference. And that means that you have a tremendous weight that falls on your shoulders to, number one, deliver, right? Because you asked me, you're like, Isaac, what's one of the things that you want to get from our conversation today? I said tactical value, because I don't want to just, be on stage and throw some strategies. I want to actually give you the keys. I want to give you everything you need to know. And so public speaking is a huge part of my personal brand strategy, not just for the next 12 months where I aim to be on 24 different stages, but for the next 36 to 72 to 120 months where I'm taking and building up my personal brand and going from that public figure in the personal branding space to a celebrity business figure who is playing the game at a very, very high level. And I would recommend that if you're in the space and you're a chiropractor, you're a practice owner, whatever it might be, whatever your industry, even if you're not in the space, that you consider public speaking. And if that is one of everybody's biggest fears, right? What's the number one biggest fear? It's not dying. It's fear of public speaking. That probably is an indicator that you should go down that path, right? Because if everybody else is afraid of it and you're the one person who goes in and embraces it, damn, you're going to stand out.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're at the end of our show today. If people want to connect with you or work with you, where should we send them to?
You could connect with me everywhere on social media. You could reach out at Isaac Mashman. I'm really easy to find. You could go to my website, isaacmashman.com, mashmancg.com. I run a consulting firm out of Little Rock, Arkansas, Mashman Consulting Group, and really excited. And thank you again for the invitation, James.
Yeah. So go check him out at isaacmashman.com. Connect with him on social media. Follow his strategies, follow his frameworks, and learn more about how to get yourself out there to grow your chiropractic practice with more people and more eyes and more adjustments. And I think that that's a great part about doing podcasts is now we're connected on a higher level and we can do better projects moving forward and help more people. So with that being said, Isaac Mashman, thank you for being episode 688 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I close out like I always do, and I tell people you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.